Hello everyone, this is Tetsuya. Thank you so much for watching my video again today. Today, I'd like to share 5 advanced things I was surprised at in Singapore from Japanese perspectives. There are so many things I found very advanced when I visited Singapore, but among them, I am going to choose 5 very advanced things in Singapore today. So the first advanced thing I was very surprised at in Singapore is the government documents. Let me first share the document of Singaporean government and the Japanese government at one glance. Both documents are the data of trade of each country. If you compare these two documents published by Singaporean government and Japanese government, we can easily recognize how much Singaporean government is effectively designing the documents and sharing the information to citizens compared to the very traditional looking Japanese government documents without illustration and with minimum colors for the graphs. In case you can read both English and Japanese language equally, which document draw your attention and which you'd be interested in taking a look at closely? Of course, I am not sure how many people in both Singapore and Japan read these documents about the trade, but simply Singaporean document is very impressive. The second thing and the third things are both related to the library in Singapore. There are a lot of impressive things in the library in Singapore, and among them, I am going to introduce 2 impressive things. So the second thing I am surprised at in Singapore is the NFC is practically used for books at libraries. NFC is an abbreviation of Near Field Communication. NFC is often used for electronic money in many countries, I think more than decades. If you make the object with NFC close to NFC sensors, even if the electronic money doesn't actually touch the sensor, your payment is calculated. In Japan, NFC is considered as expensive technology. So even as of 2022, NFC is not used for the library books, and there are only barcodes attached to the book. So we need to scan the books from the specific angle when we borrow books and return books. But in Singapore, even when people return books from this kind of book post, NFC attached on the books are detected by the sensors, and the returning data is automatically submitted to the library data system, if I am not mistaken. In Singapore, NFC has already been used more than a decade or a few decades. This is something very advanced from my Japanese perspectives. The third thing is about library, again, as I said. At the library in Singapore, I often saw people reading newspaper using touch screen. And the people I especially often saw are elderly Singaporean people. On this fact, there were 2 surprising things. First, the fact itself. Touch screen newspaper is available at the library. Second, so it would be a bit rude of me to say, elderly people in Singapore looked generally so used to using the new technology. Why I say this is because in Japan, some elderly people still cannot easily shift to smartphone from traditional mobile phones sometimes, for example. So this view in Singapore was just amazing. Also in Japan, there is no digital newspaper at library as far as I know. So we are always reading traditional paper newspaper at the library. At the library, at the university, at least we can read digital newspapers, magazines, but still I have never seen touch-screen computer to read digital documents as far as I know. So I was very much impressed when I saw touch-screen newspaper at the library in Singapore. So the fourth thing I was surprised at in Singapore is technology at some supermarkets. When I went to Singapore for the first time in 2007, quite a long time ago, I have already seen this kind of cash register machines at some shops in Singapore. These are the automatic payment machines. At some supermarket in Singapore, I was very surprised when the cash register staff only scanned my items I was going to buy and finished her work without receiving money from me. In Japan, especially since 2020 pandemic time, the self-cash register became widely used at many shops. But I don't think I saw any automatic cash register machine up until mid-2010s or at least early 2010s, I guess. These days, I finally feel, oh, we finally caught up with Singapore 10 years later by having a lot of self-cash register widely available at many shops. So the fifth thing I was surprised in Singapore is housing system in Singapore. After a few times of my visit to Singapore, I had a chance to visit my friends living in the apartment in Singapore. The building is called HDB and it is owned by Singaporean government. As you can see from its appearance, the building would have been built a few decades ago. To me, this building looked so interesting. So I explored within its premises. Then I had an interesting discovery. In HBD, I noticed all basic things necessary for the resident's life are prepared within HDB. So most of the time, the residents don't have to go out of HBD premises. Especially, it is pretty good for elderly people, I thought. There are a lot of facility, but especially these athletic areas, restaurants and cafes in short walking distance from any room looked brilliant. Over here at cafes, I saw a lot of elderly people meeting with their friends and enjoying the time together during the daytime. Singaporean elderly people would be meeting their friends regularly because they can meet friends in short walking distance from their rooms. And if that is a fact, they will be enjoying their life a lot because meeting friends is always fun. In Japan, of course, active elderly people are active and they go out and enjoy time with their friends. But it is not as easy as in Singapore to go out and to meet friends because they at least need some hustle until they can meet their friends somewhere a bit far away from their houses. In Singapore, elderly people can meet their friends hassle-free. That is brilliant. This is a very advanced housing system of Singapore, which has already been implemented a few decades ago. That's why it is pretty impressive. How did you think about advanced systems at many aspects in Singaporean society? Thank you so much for watching my video up until here today. See you in the next video. Bye bye.